Top 10 countries by gold reserves in 2020. Gold is considered a safe reserve during financial crisis and times of uncertainty. That's why it is being stockpiled by central banks around the world. While the gold standard was abandoned in the 1970s, it is still held by central banks across the world for its ability to provide stability. It is perceived as less prone to political or economic volatility and can be converted to cash if necessary. Central banks added 650 tons to their reserves in 2019, and that is the second highest shift in 50 years, after 656 tons were added in 2018. Before the 2008 financial crisis, central banks remained net sellers of gold worldwide for decades. Gold is also considered a good hedge against the risk of inflation because the rising cost of goods and services tends to erode the value of the dollar. Printing more and more money causes inflation, and gold tends to hold its value in real terms over a long period of time. Therefore, it is considered safe against that risk of inflation. In the first half of 2020, gold has enjoyed a remarkable performance, increasing by 16.8% in US dollar terms and significantly outperforming all other major asset classes. By the end of June, it was trading at US dollar 1,770 per ounce, a level unseen since 2012. Since the start of 2020, Turkey's central bank has purchased 148 tons, making it the largest official buyer of gold this year. So which nations have stockpiled the most gold? Here is a list of top 10 countries by gold reserves, according to data compiled by the World Gold Council. Number 1. United States owns 8,133.5 tons of gold. This makes it 78.9% of their foreign reserves. The US has almost as much gold as the next 3 countries combined, and has the highest gold allocation as a percentage of its foreign reserves at 79%. Over half of its reserves are held at the US Bullion Reservatory at Fort Knox. Number 2. Germany. Germany owns 3,363.6 tons of gold, which makes it 75.2% of their foreign reserves. Between 2012 and 2017, Germany repatriated most of its massive reserves, a total of 674 tons, from Paris and New York to Frankfurt. Number 3. Italy. Italy owns 2,451.8 tons of gold, which makes it 70.8% of their foreign reserves. Unlike most countries, Italy's gold is not owned by the state, but by Banca d'Italia and held in vaults in Rome and at the Swiss National Bank, the Federal Reserve in New York, and the Bank of England. While the country has come under financial duress, the Italian government made it clear that it had no intention of selling the gold reserves to plug budget holes. Number 4. France. France owns 2,436 tons of gold, which is 65% of their foreign reserves. Much of the France gold was acquired during the 1950s and 1960s and is held in vaults under the Banque de France in Paris. France's central bank has sold little of its gold over the past several years, and there have been calls to halt it altogether. Number 5. Russia. Russia owns 2,299.2 tons of gold, which makes it 22.6% of their reserves. The Russian central bank has been the largest buyer of gold for the past 7 years, and its reserves have increased by more than 400 tons in the past 2 years alone. In 2017, Russia bought 224 tons of bullion in an effort to diversify away from the US dollar, as its relationship with the West has grown chilly since the annexation of Crimea in 2014. Number 6. China. China owns 1,948.3 tons of gold, which makes it 3.4% of their foreign reserves. China is the world's largest producer, accounting to 12% of global mine production of gold. It's also the largest consumer, as local demand for gold has been boosted by a growing middle class. Number 7. Switzerland. Switzerland owns 1,040 tons of gold, which is 6.5% of their foreign reserves. While placed 7th, Switzerland owns the largest reserves of gold per capita. Much of its gold trading is done with Hong Kong and China. Number 8. Japan. Japan owns 765.2 tons of gold, which is 3.1% of their foreign reserves. As the world's third largest economy, Japan's central bank has been one of the most aggressive practitioners of quantitative easing. In 2016, it lowered interest rates below zero, which fueled a greater demand for gold. Number 9. India. India owns 654.9 tons of gold, which is 7.5% of their foreign reserves. India is the second largest consumer of gold and one of the most reliable drivers of global demand, as the majority of gold is imported. India's festivals and wedding season, which runs from October to December, has historically been a boon for gold trade. Number 10. Netherlands. Netherlands owns 612.5 tons of gold, which is 70.9% of their foreign reserves. Back in 2014, the Netherlands repatriated 20% of its gold reserves from the vaults of the New York Fed to Amsterdam. In 2019, the Dutch National Bank called the gold an anchor of trust and the perfect piggy bank for the financial system in preparation for economic doomsday. This is it, guys, for top 10 countries by gold reserves. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. And subscribe to my channel, please. Thanks in advance.